have a second video. Hopefully this will do. I hope it will be good.
Doki Doki Literature Club is the
It's
latest
honestly
haunting indie
two of my
horror
favorite
game
games.
that proves that writing
Right, this
poetry and
one is my
flirting with
favorite
cute
one.
girls has never been more terrifying. Don't let this
Actually, I
game's
wanna
cute
make my
visual
own
novel
game, but
packaging
I
fool
can't
you.
do
It
that
is
'cause of
straight
how
up
hard it would be.
horrifying. Hey, I'm Brendan with the
Maybe
leaderboard,
that's
and today
okay for
we're
you guys one
revealing
day.
7 facts about Doki Doki Literature Club. So grab some cupcakes and get ready to join the Literature Club. Dan Salvato, founder of Team Salvato, wrote the original story for the game back in 2015. Doki Doki Literature Club is his first full-length game, but he had a hand in developing other games prior to its release. Salvato is a professional Super Smash Bros. Player who contributed to the development of Project M, a mod that allowed Super Smash Bros. Brawl to implement the mechanics of Melee. He is also well known for creating one of the most difficult Super Mario Maker levels in existence, P is for Pain, and for creating the Twitch extension Frankerface. Salvato explained that the idea for Doki Doki came from his ambivalence towards anime and anime tropes like the tsundere, Genki girl, and yandere. He explained that the genre is filled with plots revolving around, quote, cute girls doing cute things, and that he wanted to develop a game that would completely subvert everybody's expectations.
Well, it did actually work,
creating a growing sense of unease rather than capitalizing on the extremely popular jump scare vein of horror games. He took inspiration from games like Irisu Syndrome, Eversion, and Yume Nikki, and sought to create a game that would appeal to both people who love visual novels and those who were new to visual novels. Salvato kept the game free to play to encourage those new adopters to give it a try, and also to prevent people from feeling tricked into buying a game that capitalizes on not being everything it appears to be. Of course, the game wouldn't be the indie masterpiece it is without the input of 2 extremely talented artists who helped bring the game to life. Valinquin, a Ukrainian artist, implemented 3D modeling to create the base of Doki Doki's immersive backgrounds. Sashalay utilized Clip Studio Paint to create the initial drawings for each of the characters, and then followed up with Photoshop to finish each character design. While the artist fleshed out the project visually, Salvato wrote Doki Doki's entire script, including all of the girls' poems. Since the game's plot, spoiler alert, was relatively straightforward, an innocent slice-of-life romance that gradually gets darker as one girl controls the entire game, Salvato worked to create tension beneath the surface. Each one of the girls has a distinct voice within their poems, and all the dialogue can tie back to another element in the game, or foreshadow the horrors yet to come. He was inspired to include poetry because of his own experiences writing poetry. He also attended a few poetry readings with his roommate, who is in graduate school studying poetry. The characters mimic tropes typically present in visual novels, including the protagonist. The main character's interactions with each girl change based on the girl's personality, which results in the main character actually being pretty awful towards the girls, Sayori most of all. Salvato explained that this was an intentional choice, meant to highlight how unrealistic the responses of female characters are in a lot of visual novels. Salvato explained that he constantly wanted to give the characters more depth, but forced himself to refrain from expanding the game further than was necessary. With the artwork and script taken care of, Salvato programmed the entire game using Ren'Py, a free open-source visual novel engine that makes it easy for anybody to create their own visual novel. Salvato stated that Ren'Py was very easy to work with and allowed him a lot of free reign in manipulating the code to get Doki Doki to have the impact he wanted. He decided to limit the glitches in the game and not disturb anything else on the players' computers. Salvato did wish the game included more randomized effects than it already does, but said that he was limited by time constraints and his desire to keep the game fairly small in scope. Salvato also composed the music of Doki Doki. He said that he does have some experience composing as a hobby, but that if the game had been any bigger, he would have had to seek out a professional composer. His music implements repetitive melodies that foreshadow events to come. Doki Doki's gameplay is fairly simple and linear. The game itself clocks in at about 4 hours of playtime, most of which is spent reading dialogue or screaming in terror. The players can choose which girl to appeal to and experience multiple endings. The player appeals to a girl by writing a poem with that girl's particular interests in mind. In Act 1, the player can write poems for Sayori, Yuri, or Natsuki, and unlock special CGs for each of those characters by doing so. You can tell which girl likes your word choice by watching their adorable chibi icons on the left-hand side of the notebook jump up and down. But certain occurrences within the game are inevitable no matter what choices the player makes. And now we have to pause to give you a huge of what happens in this game, and it is incredibly spoilerable. So if you haven't played it yet and you don't know what's coming and you want to, skip to the next fact. Act 1 of all 4 acts has the most choices that affect the particular path the player goes down. You can write a poem for Sayori and Natsuki or Yuri. Towards the end of the act, the player can elect to spend the weekend with either Natsuki or Yuri, thereby getting to know
I hate Yuri's character,
but no matter what path you follow, all choices lead to the main character finding that Sayori has hung herself at the end of Act 1. When Act 2 starts, the player can can choose to write a poem for Natsuki or Yuri, but favoring Natsuki in Act 2 doesn't keep the player away from Yuri for Day 2 of Act 2 onwards. Since the game is being manipulated in more extreme ways in Act 2, the player is subjected to glitches that range from the unnervingly altered text to a downright terrifying Natsuki scene. Regardless of whatever route the player takes to get to the final choice of Act 2, and no matter if the player accepts Yuri's confession or not, the final scene of Act 2 is always Yuri stabbing herself to death in the presence of the player. The player is forced to spend the entire weekend with Yuri's body due to a quote broken script. Monica then deletes the remaining characters' files, and we begin Act 3. Act 3 consists of nothing but Monica. That's right. Just Monica. She confesses to ramping up Sayori's depression and Yuri's obsessiveness, making them both want to commit suicide and altering lines of text so that each character says only what she wants them to. You can choose to live out your days with your new waifu, or you can delete Monica's character file. This makes the game go completely haywire, though it doesn't appear that Monica is really gone. She eventually decides that harming her classmates was not right and creates a new game for the player, one without her in it, to allow the player to continue making the other girls happy. Act 4 begins with a fresh start. The girls are back, all except Monica, and everything seems, well, pretty doki-doki. That is, until Sayori reveals that she has now become self-aware as a result of becoming the new club president, and that everything is not, in fact, doki-doki. Not to worry, though. Monica intervenes and saves the day, deleting the entire game and singing to you the whole way through, leaving you completely traumatized by the end. As I mentioned earlier, Doki Doki has multiple endings aside from the one you reach in the normal playthrough. The game's quick ending is just that, quick. The quick ending can be achieved by going into the game's character files within the first instances of starting a new game. If the player deletes either Monica or Sayori's character file, Sayori will appear on screen and appear to become extremely distressed when she realizes she's stuck in a game. She then closes the game and deletes all the character files, and if the player attempts to open the game again after this, they will be greeted with a black end screen, fading into a black and white image of Sayori having hung herself. If the player remains on that screen for about 10 minutes, the words "now everybody can be happy" appear on screen next to Sayori's body. The good ending can be obtained if the player sees every character's CGs, including Monica's in Act 3, in one playthrough. This can be done by having saved before the first poem is completed, writing the poem for one girl, seeing all her CG, and then reloading to that point to write a poem for all of the others. Once the player has completed Act 3, instead of becoming evilly sentient as club president, Sayori will thank the player for trying to make everybody happy. Instead of receiving Monica's letter at the end of the credits, players instead get read a special message from Salvato himself. Although the game is relatively short, Doki Doki is chock full of secrets and Easter eggs. For example, just the name Doki Doki is the Japanese onomatopoeia for a beating heart, specifically when in love or out of fear. The glitches that occur within the game are also somewhat randomized and can result in different disturbing experiences. Like in Day 3 of Act 2, when talking to Yuri near the closet, Natsuki has a 25% chance of appearing as glitched, with blacked out eyes and a creepy, realistic moving mouth. Each of the character files can be renamed in the first playthrough to reveal either an ultra-eerie artwork, or poetry, or even a QR code leading to a website called ProjectLibitina.com. We don't know how the website is connected to the game, but most theories speculate that the connection has to do with the third eye. Not only do both Natsuki and Yuri's garbled poems mention the third eye, but there is also an eye visible on the cover of Yuri's book entitled Portrait of Markov. Monica even brings the book up in her monologue, but quickly changes the topic, saying she shouldn't talk about it. This has led to a lot of speculation that the book may be linked to Salvato's next project, but this has yet to
I think this was Outlast,
While Doki
so
Doki
it
Literature
might be
Club
Outlast.
initially released as a humble visual novel, the game has since amassed a huge cult following. The game hit 2 million downloads in January 2018 after it was released in September 2017, and won the People's Choice IGN Awards for Most Innovative, Best Story, Best PC Game, and Best Adventure Game. Doki Doki has received largely positive reviews for subverting its outward appearance and invoking terror in even the most steadfast of gamers, your host included. Alright, that's about it. This has been 7 facts about Doki Doki Literature Club, a game that flips visual novel tropes upside down. Thanks for watching. Once again, I'm Brendan with the leaderboard. What's next from the Doki Doki team? Who is best?
Well, it's Monica. And this is the same video, guys.
Many years, only 90s kids understood the pain and suffering that comes with taking care of a scary-looking toy that doubles as a virtual pet. That is, until Tattletale came out of nowhere and showed newer generations something much more miserable and terrifying. Even more so than Teddy Ruxpin or Furby. Tattletale takes creepy 90s toy fads, pumps them full of steroids, and dips them into hellfire to give gamers the experience that gave Five Nights at Freddy's a run for its delicious pizza. Hi, I'm Jacob with the leaderboard, and today we're going to be counting down 107 facts about Tattletale. Have your flashlight ready, because we're about to unwrap some info Five Nights Too Early.
It's gonna be in this show. Oh my god.
Tattletale is a first-person horror game developed by Waygetter Electronics and led by indie developer Ben Esposito. Prior to Tattletale, Ben had his hand in creating other hits in the indie circuit such as Donut City and Perfect Stride. He's also a founder of Glitch City LA, a collective of independent game developers based in, Los Angeles. Ben technically began his game development career in 2007 when he would frequently create mods for Quake and Half-Life. Years later, Ben started developing projects on his 2011 MacBook Pro. His first professional gig was working on the PlayStation 3 game The Unfinished Swan. By 2015, he was being featured in the American business magazine Forbes as number 10 on their games list for 30 under 30. Yeah. Tattletale isn't the first time Ben has given the internet nightmares. He previously worked on a horrifying Sonic fan game known as Sonic Dreams Collection, which reached critical mass fame when it was discovered and played by some of YouTube's biggest gamers like Steam Train, Markiplier, and of course, PewDiePie. For the most part, Tattletale was developed by just 3 people. Ben served as the game's director, Geneva Hodgson developed the concept and designed the characters, and Tom Astle served as the game's lead programmer. The idea for the game was born out of several conversations that Geneva and Ben had about what game they would make together if they could. As a huge Sonic fan, Geneva would jokingly request that they make Sonic Adventure 3, knowing that Sega would never make it. Of the dozens of concepts the duo brainstormed, the one that resonated with them most was a horror game set during Christmas. Tattletale was the first video game Geneva had ever worked on. She's primarily a character designer and storyboard artist for animation, particularly Cartoon Network shows like Adventure Time, Teen Titans Go, and OKKO Let's Be Heroes. Geneva Hodgson has been obsessed with toy horror ever since she was a child, and was heavily influenced by the Goosebumps book Night of the Living Dummy and the film franchise Child's Play, starring Chucky the Killer Doll. Ben was never really into horror games until about a year before development on Tattletale began. He said he was always too afraid to try them, until he played Silent Hill 2 and Soma with his friends and saw what an enriching social experience horror games could provide, and it made him want to create one of those experiences himself. In addition to his work on Tattletale, Tom Astle is currently developing his own game, Wobble Dog. You can follow the development of the game on his very own YouTube channel, which is called, wait for it, Tom Astle. Tattletale was created using the Unity engine, the same engine used to create other hits like Pokemon Go, Super Mario Run, and the upcoming Yooka-Laylee, among many others. The game is set in 1998. You assume the role of a young child that decides to take a peek at the Christmas gifts. Among them is the hot new toy every 90s kid is begging their parents for, Talking Tattletale. A fuzzy, talking companion that resembles Furbies. After taking the toy out for a test drive, the child puts it back, only to find the following night that Tattletale has escaped its package and demands the player take care of it, or else incur Mama Tattletale's wrath. Mama was originally designed to be a toy that would read children's stories. The stories would be read through a story tape that could be inserted into a tape deck located in her stomach, you know, where the entrails of her foes currently reside. She was eventually recalled from the Tattletale toy line. Rumor has it that she was pulled off the market after she ate a kid's eyes. If you play the game, you'll probably discover a few very good reasons she was recalled as well. The decision to make her a recalled toy shrouded in unsettling mystery was inspired by various urban legends told about recalled toys back in the 80s and 90s children would tell during recess to scare each other. Mama is a grade A movie monster. She can only move around the house when the player isn't looking and can pop up just about anywhere. Aside from flat out neglecting your Tattletale, looking directly into Mama's eyes is the worst move you can make in the game, as she'll extinguish your light, making it all the easier for her to lunge at and devour your face. While Mama appears to be a senseless force of evil bent on murdering children, she actually has a motive. She's an overprotective parent in the worst possible way, specifically targeting people that get between her and her children. Whether her babies are being sold or played with, Mama will stop at nothing to keep her baby Tattletales away from strangers and within her line of sight. Can you blame her? Stranger danger is a thing, even with toys apparently. Tattletales are capable of a great many things. For one, they're demanding and never quite stay quiet. They're even capable of communicating with other Tattletales and reacting to the world around them in real time, which begs the question, are these things sentient? Probably. What? For whatever reason, Tattletales are capable of eating real food just as humans can. Keeping your demonic little buddy well fed is just one of the many methods you must use to prevent Mama from finding you. Despite their mischievous nature and creepy demeanor, the baby tattletales are not necessarily out to get you. In fact, they want to get away from Mama as much as you do, even going so far as attempting to get rid of her. But regardless of their allegiance, tattletales are still the stuff of nightmares. The Tattletale toys heavily resemble the 90s toy line known as Furbies, both in looks and function. The only difference appears to be that tattletales have gotten children killed, and Furbies haven't. Or have they? One other toy that inspired Tattletale's creation was another 90s fad, digital pets, like Tamagotchis. Remember them? More specifically, these digital pets inspired Tattletale's need to be constantly fed. Unfortunately, years of starvation won't stop Tattletale from telling you how hungry it is. Geneva originally pushed to make Tattletale flat-out evil, but Ben opted against this, instead pushing in the opposite direction to make it the player's ally. On reflection, Geneva thinks this was a better direction for the game because it somewhat defies traditional horror conventions and adds some heart to a dark and dreary atmosphere. This shift in Tattletale's moral alignment must have happened very late into the game's development because there are lines of unused dialogue for Tattletale deep within the game's files that suggest it was intended to side with Mama or at the very least antagonize the player. If you think designing Tattletale was as easy as taking Furby's design and swapping some things around, it was actually a bit more difficult than that. The designers had pages filled with various alternative designs for Tattletale. Some of them were more avian in design, much like Furby, while others were more legally safe alternatives, appearing to be more cat and rabbit-like. Mama Tattletale's design was based off another creepy children's toy from the 1980s called Teddy Ruxpin. Teddy Ruxpin was an animatronic bear that could read stories to children by inserting story tapes into a deck located on his back. Fortunately, he never consumed the souls of any children, at least not to my knowledge, but if you have one collecting dust in an attic somewhere, you might want to check that he's still there. And if he's not, don't look behind you. When designing the Tattletale toy, Geneva strove to create something that straddles perfectly on something you hate and something you love. No wonder I feel equally like hugging and burning it. The game almost gained some additional features as Geneva was narrowing down the final design. At one point, she suggested giving Tattletale penguin flappers as opposed to being armless, and even considered giving him a single buck tooth at the center of that disturbing smile. In her concept sketches, Geneva expressed a desire for white to be the default color scheme for Tattletale. On top of not being the color in the final game, white Tattletale doesn't show up at all, save for a cameo on the packaging. Geneva once worked as an intern at a toy design company, which came in handy when designing not only the toys themselves, but also the design of the packaging they came in. No wonder it looks like something straight out of a 90s Toys R Us. The original sketches for the gift eggs were done on a post-it note. Based on this and other early sketches, Geneva also pushed for the eggs to have googly eyes. In case the callbacks to Furbies and VHS tapes didn't make it obvious enough, Ben stated that one of the game's central themes is the relationship between horror and nostalgia. He explained, quote, "A lot of nostalgic memories are tied to some element of horror in the sense of experiencing something brand new for the first time, and that mystery and uncertainty is what makes it such an important memory to you. When I was at summer camp for the weeks I was there, it was the most scary time of my life, and some of it was not actually fun. But after I left, it was rewritten in my mind as the best time I'd ever had." Many of the horror elements within the game are based on many real-life fears that Geneva has had since she was a child. Hope she didn't have any nightmares while making this game, though it would also be completely understandable. The name of the developer, Waygetter Electronics, is also the name of the in-game manufacturer of the Tattletale toy line. How very meta of them. Waygetter put together a retro TV commercial for the Tattletale toy line, complete with all the 90s tropes. A cheesy, puke-inducing theme song, as well as VHS-quality audio and video degradation. According to Ben, the look of the commercial was made to resemble a VHS tape that was taped over and copied over 1,000,000 times. This wasn't created to be the game's trailer, but it did reel in supporters for the project, namely Tom Astle. In addition to game design, Ben also dabbles in songwriting. He wrote and performed the cheesy Tattletale jingle that plays in the commercial. In the original draft of the lyrics for the Tattletale theme song, the verse, "He can tell when Mama's there," was originally followed by "Don't be scared or run away," followed by the creepy Mama quote, "Where did you go?" I guess the marketers didn't want to make their product's bloodlust too obvious. It's bad for business.
Usually, at least.
Waygetter contemplated releasing this commercial onto the internet to build up hype, but
easily.
thought that the production value of the ad was so good that it would
Business
build up to levels of
decisions.
hype that the actual game could never live up to,
Two.
resulting in potentially negative reviews that would kill any potential profit early on. Too awesome for
It's
their own
so good. It's cars.
Speaking of awesome, Geneva also served as the game's interior decorator, being in charge of gathering or creating all of the paintings, photos, books, and other textures that make the house feel authentic and pretty. She thinks that one aspect of the game that Ben especially excelled at was creating a space that subtly teaches you how to use certain features and mechanics before you need to use them without the blatant hand-holding found in most modern games.
Yeah.
Geneva explained that one of the reasons the game was made to be so short was for the sake of being a social single-player game, meaning it was easy for a group of friends to pass it around to one another to fully play through multiple times over the course of a single night. To add to her pile of contributions to the game, Geneva also voices the game's monster, Mama Tattletale. To achieve Mama's horrifying voice, Geneva's voice was artificially pitched down in post-production as she can't naturally make her voice go that low, or that distorted. Tattletale's irksome voice was provided by Ryan Shannon, who is not typically a voice actress, but a storyboard artist and writer for shows like Cartoon Network's OKKO Let's Be Heroes. Ryan Shannon's Tattletale voice was pitched upward in post-production, but not nearly as much as Geneva's had to be pitched down. 2 dead bodies are hidden in the background of the Tattletale commercial. The first can be found when the Tattletale are sitting on the couch. There's a pair of legs sticking out from behind the left of the couch.
But still, there's
the second corpse can be seen at the very end of the commercial, surrounded by the Tattletale family and lying in a pool of blood. It is tactfully covered by the rotating display box. Good luck sleeping tonight, by the way. Though Tattletale's gender has been a subject of much debate amongst the community, the commercial refers to the toy as a he. The game prominently features 3 different colored Tattletales, purple, yellow, and blue. However, according to the Waygetter website, 2 more colors are coming soon, black and white. Perhaps this could be hinting at a sequel? Despite having exceptionally good vision, Tattletales are especially afraid of the dark. With murderous Mama on the prowl, yeah, I don't blame them. Do you? It's unknown just who exactly the protagonist is, their gender and age being completely ambiguous. But the Tattletale team has left us a few hints. In the protagonist's room, you can find a picture of a little boy and a little girl.
I found a game for buddies. You basically need to shoot other balls to clone them. It's so easy and satisfying. My girlfriend is obsessed with this game. Look how many balls out there. Gazillion, more or less. It's
girl. According to Geneva, this photo was specifically chosen to put things into perspective, yet make things a little ambiguous. One of these children is the protagonist, the other is the protagonist's sibling. Which is which? Geneva said that's up to the player to decide. While the age of the child you play as is never explicitly stated either, the developers have stated that they are somewhere between 8 and 9 years old. The family pictures featuring the children seem to confirm this as well. Though we don't know much about our hero, the game reveals that they play soccer, or if you're outside the US, football. In the child's room, you can find a photo of their Little League soccer team. That explains how they're in such good shape to outrun Mama. Gameplay, lore, and theories aside, the pictures seen in the game are actually Geneva's family photos. The picture we just mentioned, the one of the girl and the boy, is actually of Geneva and her cousin. With this and the last facts taken into account, could this mean that Tattletale is an autobiographical account of Geneva's childhood experience with a Furby gone bad? Unfortunately, we're not the show that covers gaming conspiracies. Game theories, if you will. To promote the game, the team created a website for the fictitious Waygetter Electronics that resembles the primitive HTML-coded websites of the 90s, but without the hassle of waiting 10 minutes to get online. There's a string of text missing from the front page of the Waygetter website. If one were to take a look at the source code for the website, you'll notice a line of text that reads, "The creators of the popular Mama Tattletale and Baby Talking Tattletale." The words, "the popular Mama Tattletale," have been hidden from the main site. The Waygetter's website says that each Tattletale doll is assembled by hand within the United States in a humble city called Decent in the state of Illinois. Oh, and Waygetter also assures us that each one is made with love.
Yeah, right.
The zip code for Waygetter Electronics' address in Decent, Illinois, 60420, is actually the code of the real-life town of Dwight, Illinois. Dwight is also the town in which Geneva spent her childhood. More fuel for that autobiographical game conspiracy? On the game's Steam page, Waygetter urges players to contact them regarding any and all sightings of Mama. I always love a developer with a sense of humor.
At least we hope it's a joke.
It is a joke,
right, guys? It is a joke, right, guys?
The Waygetter website even has a link that allows you to contact the infamous toy company directly by
We
email,
make virtual
probably
pets
to report any
so
and all
real.
mama
They're virtually
sightings.
family.
The fact that the game takes place in
What?
1998 is yet another reference to Furbies, as they were first released to the public that very same year. Also, like
Interesting.
Tattletale, or is it the other way around, Furbies were a hot Christmas commodity. Demand for the Furby actually exceeded the supply during the 1998 holiday season, causing the resale prices to rise up to over $100. It's
Yeah, I
said
may
that if
pay
you
for a
feed
toy like that.
Tattletale enough food, he may reward you with a gift egg.
That's not
Bet you never
true.
look at Yoshi the same way again. Tattletale's gift eggs are very similar in nature to owl pellets. Owl pellets are disgusting pods regurgitated by owls containing objects that can't pass through their digestive system, like the bones of its prey. The same can be said for Tattletale, as all of the items found in the gift eggs are non-food items that it can't digest.
Yeah.
Out of all three of
Interesting.
Tattletale's needs, the longest one to accomplish is recharging its battery. To make matters
More
worse,
of
the
the
charger is
things
located
in
in
the
the basement,
basement.
making it all the more dangerous and terrifying.
Right.
Tattletale's heart-shaped nose is identical to that of a Care Bear, yet another popular children's toy from a decade long past. In her sketches, Geneva described this very same nose as being, quote, candy-like. The protagonist appears to have no father in their life, the first clue being that a bedroom door in the house reads Mom's door, not Mom and Dad's door. Another telling clue comes in the form of a photo where a brother and sister stand beside their mother, but no father. However, a different picture shows a pregnant woman standing next to a man. Unlike the mother, this man appears in no other pictures, so it's pretty safe to assume that if he is the father, he is currently out of the picture. Oh, that was a pun! The child in the game has a dog that is only alluded to through the appearance of a doghouse outside and the presence of dog food in one of the Tattletale eggs. Moreover, the player can find a doggy dish in the basement. When asked about the dog's whereabouts during the events of the game, Waygetter refused to comment. Let's just hope the adorable mutt didn't mark one of Mama's children as its territory, because then Mama would have marked them for death. The house also features pictures of a cat that, much like the dog, is never seen throughout the course of the game. According to the Waygetter Twitter account, this cat's name is White Paw. The company claims the cat died of natural causes, but this could be damage control to hide Mama's antics. While Easter eggs are typically a term used for hidden secrets found within games, Tattletale features 22 literal eggs scattered throughout the house waiting to be discovered by completionists everywhere. The eggs themselves don't contain anything of value, but rather possess useless junk like a hairball or a penny. One egg in the game contains
doll hair.
This is a reference to a true story about a Cabbage Patch Kids doll that ate a child's hair.
What?
I think it's safe to assume that Mama eats a bit more
I
than just
did
a
not
kid's
know
hair.
that.
If you thought Tattletale couldn't get any creepier,
Try this
glitch.
switch.
Jump onto the doghouse outside and use it to climb onto the roof of the house. After that, you're able to jump over the backyard fence and out of the level. Keep walking until you reach the map's limit and begin falling into a bottomless abyss. The longer you let this happen, the more disfigured Tattletale will become. It's horrifying. According to the tag of the player's Tattletale, it was born on February 25th, 1998, meaning it was created 10 months prior to the game's ending. The game features multiple endings, including a bad ending, which you obviously want to avoid unless you're some kind of sadist, or the typically more desired good ending. How do you achieve this good ending, you may ask? Make sure you search every square inch of the house for eggs. You'll need them. All of them. They're not so useless after all. If you achieve the game's good ending, your Tattletale will reward you with the golden flashlight, which, as its color suggests, is superior to that junky flashlight you spent the whole game using. While it functions similar to its less shiny counterpart, the golden flashlight has a slightly longer battery life and brighter light. The disturbing chanting heard during the ritual held to banish Mama is actually the Tattletale theme song played backwards. Reverse or not, that tune still sounds like something satanic. The video horror system is full of cryptic and disturbing secrets, if you have the right codes. Upon achieving the good secret ending, you will be awarded with a tag that possesses a series of numbers. Each camera in the video horror system is numbered, and tapping each camera in the tag's corresponding order will provide the player with some pretty unsettling results. On the video horror system, we can see that footage of stockpiled Mama dolls was taken on October 22nd, 1998. As mentioned earlier, the Waygetter website removed Mama Tattletale 12 days before on October 10th, 1998. This means that Mama was recalled from store shelves at some point in October of 1998. What remains to be answered, though, is why Waygetter was stockpiling these murderous machines instead of properly disposing of them.
That is a good question.
According to the game's secret ending, if a Tattletale presents somebody with its birth certificate tag, it means that the Tattletale really likes and trusts that person. And rightfully so. After banishing their evil Mama to another realm, you deserve to be swimming in tags. Tattletales are quite durable, being able to survive an intense tumble dryer cycle, something it appears to do for fun. It also seems that no matter how low the battery gets, Tattletale will never truly run out of power. Its voice will simply get deeper and more irritating. Throughout your adventures, frantically running around the house with an annoying hell spawn in hand, you may have noticed a door with an action labeled "Knock on Mom's Door," which typically results in no response. However, if you attempt to knock on the door whilst being chased by Mama, you'll be rewarded with a death-inducing jump scare, and an achievement appropriately titled, "What did you expect?" Gee, I don't know, Tattletale. Maybe the love and support of my own mother? Ben stated that the ketchup bottles placed near Mama are an inside joke that represent the blood of her victims. You know, for the kids. If you resist all temptation and do not answer the ringing phone until the end of night 5, you will receive the most terrifying telemarketing call ever made. And that's saying a lot. Your patience will also be rewarded with the exclusive offer achievement on Steam. In the kitchen, the player will find 2 cereal boxes on the counter labeled Puffies and Bricks. The Bricks is an obvious nod to Trix cereal thanks to the white cartoon rabbit featured on the box, which looks a little bit too similar to the Trix rabbit. Puffies are a reference to Reese's Puffs, a cereal based on Hershey's famous candy, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. The Puffies box uses an identical typography to Reese's Puffs, and the graphic design of the spoon holding the cereal is very similar when placed side by side. Ah, legally distinct cereal. My favorite. There's a book on the protagonist's nightstand titled The Little Peach, with the cover featuring an illustration of a legion of seagulls lifting a giant peach using black strings. This is a scene taken directly from the Roald Dahl novel James and the Giant Peach, which had a film adaptation released by Disney in the mid-90s. The song that plays on the music box throughout the game is a rendition of the English folk song Greensleeves. The song dates back to the late 16th century and was believed to have been written by King Henry VIII in order to woo a lover, but this tidbit is unconfirmed and ultimately lost to time. Greensleeves has been referenced in pop culture as far back as the time of William Shakespeare, who referenced the tune multiple times in his play The Merry Wives of Windsor. Only 1590s kids would understand. Tattletale came as a complete surprise to the gaming community, being announced the exact same day it was released, December 28th, 2016. Considering the nature of the game itself, this is actually very fitting. The team at Waygetter went against all conventional wisdom about how one should release a game, especially as an indie developer. In addition to not making any prior announcement about the game, the team decided to release it during the holiday season, a time in which AAA games flourish and indie titles are overshadowed. To make matters all the ballsier, they released the game during a huge Steam sale. Ben claims it was a recipe for suicide. Not only did they decide to release the game around Christmas time to match the game's setting, they also did it to capitalize on the fact that students would be home on break from school and be hanging with their friends with nothing better to do but to go on Steam and play a scary-ass game together, which is exactly how Ben was inspired to create his own horror game. Tattletale was released exclusively on Steam for both Mac and PC for a measly $5. According to its high ratings, gamers are responding very positively to Tattletale. Despite what could be considered a series of poor marketing choices, major gaming journalism outlets like Polygon and Dig were talking about the game the moment it was released, giving it an instant PR boost right out the gate. Tattletale was featured on Steam's popular new releases list within a week after it came out. Shortly after that, the game was featured on the front page of Steam. That demented jingle must be pretty addicting because the Tattletale commercial has garnered over 1 million views on YouTube in just 3 months of being posted. The game has only received 1 review on Metacritic by GameSpew, leaving it currently sitting with an 80 Metascore. I guess all the other journalists were just too scared to touch it. GameSpew went on to say that, quote, while it's by no means perfect, Tattletale goes beyond mere jump scares and delivers an experience that is genuinely and persistently frightening. The game reached its current height of popularity after it was covered by popular YouTubers like Markiplier and Jacksepticeye, with Mark's first video gaining over 4 million views in just 2 months. Due to the game's art style, familiar gameplay, nostalgic angle, and the fact that the story spans over the course of 5 nights, one can't help but compare it to the popular indie horror franchise Five Nights at Freddy's, with some publications and players calling it Five Nights at Furby's. The game became big enough that it was even roasted by Smosh Games' acclaimed YouTube series, Honest Game Trailers, with the video boasting over 700,000 views at the time of writing this video. While the game may not be what Ben would consider a viral success, he believes the game is more than successful enough to justify the amount of time and effort they put into creating it, easily earning their budget back and more. The troves of Tattletale fan art speaks volumes as well. Do you feel safe knowing that tattletales are only part of a video game and don't exist in real life? You might want to grab a flashlight. A YouTuber and tattletale fan named Alyssa Hensley brought the nightmare to life and built her very own tattletale doll. To make matters creepier, it's fully functional, being able to move its eyes, talk, and even dance. Let's just hope she doesn't have the audacity to create a mama doll. That's just begging for trouble. Tattletale has an official Twitter account that recognizes and retweets the many pieces of fan art the game has inspired. It also has a tendency to creepily spout tattletale quotes, which are hard not to read in its voice. Tattletale superfan Subwoofer X3 recently released a super detailed Tattletale fan game called Tattletop. The game is reminiscent of titles from the SNES and Sega Genesis era and is played like an arcade game from a top-down perspective. Instead of full-blown nights, the player must complete various objectives over the course of several rounds, from evading Mama to collecting eggs. Oh, did we mention it's free to play? That means you have no excuse not to check it out.
I'm not gonna play it.
While Tattletale is currently exclusive to PC and Mac, the developers of Waygetter have confirmed an interest in bringing Tattletale to mobile platforms.
It has not happened.
No official plans have been made yet. No word on an Xbox or PlayStation port yet either. Sorry, console lovers.
It didn't happen.
Despite being a part of the game's development and thus knowing every jump scare a mile before they happen, Geneva still occasionally gets scared when she plays it. If that isn't a testament to the game's fear factor, I don't know what is. According to Steam
You're scared of your own game.
You gotta be
Tattletale
players have collected all 22 of the eggs in their playthroughs. That's a lot of unhappy, bloody endings. Only 5.3% of Steam users have unlocked the exclusive offer achievement, making it the rarest and least attained achievement in the whole game. Who knew that not answering a ringing telephone could be so difficult? The fact that the game tells you not to answer the phone as a hint during the start of the game makes this phenomenon all the more puzzling. We expect this percentage to go up after this video releases, guys. Come on, there's no excuse now. I'm throwing down the gauntlet. Don't answer that phone. Phones are dumb.
Unless you own one.
Tattletale has received quite a bit of support since its release. Its update, titled The Gift, was released less than 2 weeks after the game's launch. The update features the new secret ending and a reward for achieving that ending. It's also got a level select so you can relive your favorite parts instantly without replaying the whole game. Geneva said that Tattletale may not be the last game she works on, as she and Ben have spoken about other ideas they intend to flesh out sometime in the future. Perhaps a Tattletale sequel? Perhaps?
Please?
Once again, I'm Jacob, and thanks for watching 107 Facts About Tattletale. Did we miss anything? Did you answer the telephone? You probably did, but prove me wrong. Comment below and let us know. We have new videos dropping every week, so let us know what...
That's it for the day. It is pretty late, so I gotta get going. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everyone.